So, good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome once again to the WoT Season 3, Match Day 6. We are getting underway in the season now, and it's starting to build up some real pace. We've seen some great games just a couple of days ago, but now it's time for some more tank action. So, how are you feeling about today's games? Because we've got some really good ones just seconds away.
Yeah, we have. We've got some interesting picks, not like, your infamous teams, but these are the ones that are up and coming, and these are the ones that really need the results because they're not guaranteed those top 6 spots like, the top teams are, but they've got to fight for them from day one, and that's what they're going to be doing here, and I think we're in for some great games for those reasons.
Yeah, exactly. And the first one will be mousesports against Team WD, so that's going to be a real cracker. I can't wait to see that one because they've got some good results between them. I'll go into some depth towards that once we get to see those lineups, but let's actually look at the season so far because it's getting quite interesting already because that top 3 is not the normal logos and the teams that you see. Odin Mortis sitting at 4-1, only WoT Pro managing to take a map off, well, a game off them, should I say. So they're going so well this season. It's unbelievable. Really good to see them turning up early on. Second position, Team Dignitas, 4-1 as well. And after that, more WoT.de, a really kind of surprising addition to my eyes. Winning 3 games, drawing 1 and losing another, but they've been doing really well. Who else to you stands out at the moment?
I think the team today, we got mousesports is slowly starting to get up there because they did actually end up beating WoT Pro quite nicely, 3-2. So I'm looking forward to see if they can continue their charge, and obviously the next hurdle will be Team WD, which will be our first game. So they're in currently number 7th spot. And I think they're going to continue going up throughout this beginning part of the season, going into the middle section. So I'm looking forward to them. Also, Evil Panel Squad just above them in 6th. Obviously, our second spot winner in Season 2 finals at Gamescom. They've had quite a rough start, not going all so well, but I think they're going to continue and hopefully improve. They made a lot of easy mistakes, and they just need to kind of just get rid of them pretty much. They know how to, and they just need to fix those little problems. And I think when they do that, they continue going up. So yeah, those 2 teams are 2 Polish teams, and obviously Team WD is also going to have to start upping their game. They definitely want into the top 6 spots this season. So I think they're another team to look out for, and they definitely have the potential. But mousesports is a hard competitor.
Yeah, they had a bit of a shaky start, but they also are facing off against some very, very good teams. They lost to Dig initially for mousesports, but they've built up so well. As you mentioned, that WoT Pro game was absolutely unbelievable. The VODs are available on the WoTProLeague.com website, so make sure you check them out because that was a game that I'm not going to forget. That was when WoT Pro were at the very top of the league, and mousesports are at the bottom, and it changed in an instant. And that's what I love about the early days of the season, that there's no clear-cut winners. Odin Mortis, if you looked at, for example, last season, you'd never think they'd be in first place already. And for them to get off to, a start like this is certainly something to be revered. But anyway, let's have a little look towards the games we're going to be having today. So hopefully we can get those graphics head-to-head, and let's have a little check through those lineups, because you should know them by now, but if you don't, why don't you take us through this? Because it will be Team WD facing off against mousesports, as we mentioned. Yeah,
so Mr. Chef, the team captain of Team WD, usually plays the AMX 5100s. Always good to see him playing quite so well. And he's a really aggressive player. His playstyle is quite unusual, but just because it's unusual, it works out quite well. Nicholas Black, one of the IS3's players for that Jaeger's move, and obviously have to mention World of War and Caxa as well. So Makizio, AMX 1390 player, T69 player generally as well. So he's a really good player, really stepping up most of the time. He just needs to get the consistency with the shots. I sometimes feel that he can get a little bit lost in the games, I guess you could say. And on the side of mousesports, we've got obviously Ilian, the team captain of mousesports, Carmen, a brilliant IS3 player, Butcher, probably the best, one of the best heavy tank players, full stop, on the European server, if not the world. So he's always stepping up to the mark. We've got Nia Pizzoni, Christopher plays at T69 superbly. So all in all, although mousesports perhaps a little bit more experience, having come 3rd in the first season, didn't do so well, coming 5th in the second season finals, but that's exactly why they'll have so much, and it does look like they have so much anger in their eyes, they have so much passion, they want to move forwards and they want to move up.
Yeah, most certainly. So these two, certainly a team to be watching, both of these sides, because there's movement, as you said, that either side can really advance here and start to kind of build up from what they did. I think mousesports obviously have to keep in mind they can take down WoT Pro, so why can't they take down the rest? I think the last game they played, they drew a Denova, but still, Denova are an extremely respectable side. You can't write them out. But on paper, I'd say it's all about mousesports for this one. But then again, it's so hard to predict, as we only found out a couple of days ago, that these teams can really turn up specifically against anyone they want. It can change, on a dime. So let's bear that in mind. And because we don't have our social media guru today, she's not feeling too well. Our dear Melly is not around, actually, which is a real shame for us because we do like, having her taking the mick out of us for most of the show. But it's not going to stop you guys from being able to get involved. Obviously, the Facebook and the Twitter is still completely and utterly available. You can see it down there. WoT Pro League on both of them. Simple as that. Get your predictions through. Tweet at us, at They Call Me Pansy, and obviously Laughter WoT. Make sure you get involved. I'd love to know your thoughts towards the games coming up. And there's obviously going to be some bonus codes given away and some gold in there quite possibly. So make sure you get them through because I'm sure Melly will be in Twitch chat soon enough to keep you guys in check. But anyway, that aside, let's get ready for the tank picks. I believe they are almost ready, so let's give them the nod to go ahead, and we can get this one underway. And I want to know your thoughts towards this now. Who's going to win this one on Prokarovka?
Yeah, so it's an open map. It's a hard one to play. And what's most interesting about Prokarovka, I guess, is the fact that it's changed so much. Obviously, in Season 1, we had artillery and through a little bit through Season 2 as well. So the map was pretty quick and it was all about hitting that kind of, well, I don't think it's luck at this level, but it's hitting that good shot, taking at least 800 or even one shot in something like an AMX 1390 or at least blind shotting the T1s out of the equation. But now it's much more polarized. You have a team going through the village or through the forest area. Usually at the beginning, they kind of meet up in the middle for the initial scouts. And then it kind of plays on from there. But tank picking has begun from Mr. Chef from Team WD picking the T1 and that AMX 1390. And that will be replied by double T1 from mousesports. Before Mr. Chef also picks that T1, that AMX 1390. So he's gone for two AMX 1390s, two T1 so far. And that goes for mousesports as well. So getting the obvious picks out of the way. That French Tier 8 light tank, obviously a mainstay in World of Tanks 7-on-7 esports. And I think it's going to stay for a while, at least until either Wargame decides to perhaps move it down in terms of speed and maneuverability, or there's another tank that replaces it, which could happen now. We know the Japanese tanks are going to be introduced in the short term. So T69 times 2 by Team WD, and mousesports also picking the T69, the MX 1390. So they've gone for two T69s, two MX 1390s, two T1s. Mr. Chef and Team WD just waiting for that fifth pick as well. And mousesports have gone for three AMX 1390s and one T69, two T1. So I think they're going to go for the double T69 there as well. So the only difference between these two teams, in my opinion, would be either Team WD goes for four AMX 1390s, one T69. They go for three AMX 1390s, two T69s. It's just that switch up we usually see. Okay, so Mr. Chef has gone for the quadruple MX 1390 lineup. Quite interesting, I guess. Looking for that speed. It does actually end up working quite a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Actually, they've gone for... Okay, they got one of their picks wrong. It's three MX 1390, two T69, so that's completely normal. Yeah, so that's a standard lineup from mousesports. And just waiting for Nia Pizzoni to pick their last tank. mousesports to pick their last tank. I think it will also be it'll be a Pershing. So they're gonna go for something slightly different, but I wouldn't say it's unusual at this point, just because teams have been picking it, especially Denova, here, there, everywhere. And I think the other leagues are also picking it. The Americans, the Russians come to mind. And that's going to be interesting just because last time when Oda Mortis used it, it worked out very well.
Correct.
Against Spale, but will it work?
Yeah, that's the big question here. So let's get you an introduction video towards Prokarovka.
Prokarovka, a large map at 1,000 by 1,000 meters which allows teams to stretch their legs and artillery to test their skills. There are three primary routes of attack: over the left tree road, the middle area and towards the town. The tree road is very open and flat but has a very large number of bushes and trees that provide good cover if you're not shooting. The middle area is where the initial engagements happen as teams gather as much information as they possibly can. Both teams are fairly symmetrical and only offer small hills and brushes as cover. The middle area is where the initial engagement happen as teams gather as much information as they possibly can. The railroad that splits the map has a large number of bushes running alongside it that provides good cover and the occasional route of attack in the village and hill area. Teams should look towards taking fast tanks and artillery as they complement each other on this expansive map.
He's not trusted to press the buttons. I can only do this. I had to
pressed
correct him.
one.
Okay, well, we aren't Prokarovka. You may have noticed that. One of the players did drop out, so we're just going to wait for them to get back into the battle, and as soon as they are back with us, we will be going live. But let's have a little bit of a talk about these two teams head-to-head, because I want the people at home to have as much information as to where they can put their predictions towards to get themselves in for the chance of getting those bonus codes and gold and all that good stuff. So what do you think the overall scoreline is going to be here? Because that's what they need to be tweeting and putting on Facebook. The actual scoreline they believe is going to end in.
After all 5 maps.
After all 5 maps. So what do you think we're going to see here? What sort of maps suit maybe mousesports more? You know, is it city map or is it the open maps? What do you think we're going to see?
I think generally mousesports is still vulnerable. This is at the beginning of the season, and they've always seemed to be vulnerable at the start. I remember season 2, they went something like 4 losses to 3 wins. So we're still in that kind of phase where they could easily be beaten by any team. So I think Team WD is in for a good chance here.
Yeah.
So I think it's not going to be a complete rollover by mousesports if it does come to it. I think it's going to be a 3-2 or perhaps a 4-1, but the maps are going to be close either way, regardless of the scoreline. Mousesports probably are going to struggle a little bit more on city maps. But maps like Prokarovka, which is our first map today, will be their reign. It will be their place to really shine, because that's what they do so well on these open maps. So I think mousesports going to win the open ones. Team WD are definitely going to push for the win on city maps.
Okay.
But it's always hard to call against mousesports. They can either have a really good day, they're like Spale, or a really bad day. But the good thing about mousesports is once they're more consistent in that kind of good-bad side. That once they're in the good, and they win 9 match days in a row.
Okay, so at least we got that in mind. So maybe hold your predictions off until that first map, I'd say.
Yeah.
Try and,
idea.
work it out. See if you think that, well, they actually got a really good start there. They look confident now. Then get your votes in. It's a little bit of a sneaky way around it. But, I'm here to help you guys out. If Melly's not here, someone's going to have to do it, right? So I reckon that's probably the best way to go about it. See how this one goes. Maybe if Team WD come out all guns are blazing, then you got to be careful. They've got some really, really tough characters to take down. Makia, Nicholas, Black, all extremely capable, and I'm just waiting to see what they can bring today, because as you said, it can be up and down with them. Sometimes they're looking like they can challenge the best, which we've seen. Even Team WD have been able to really pick up good maps, but they never seem to quite get the victory for me. You know what I mean? They'll pick up a map here and there, but it's never quite the 3 they need, so they normally slump. My prediction is going to be about, I think, a 3-2 to Mouse.
Sure.
I reckon they'll pick it up. As soon as they get that first map under their belt, they'll really start kicking it in a gear, and I want to see them doing that. I want to see them start stretching their legs. Coming off a victory, a draw, they want to get another win now. Drawing with Denova, it's probably not on tilt with, let's say, beating Virtus Pro, but you still have got to be happy with it, because Denova can really turn up as well. They're a team that you've always got to be careful with. So I always try and negate the scorelines with Denova, because they're another team that I feel has moments of brilliance when they can challenge the very best. And they also have really off days where it's a little bit like, oh, what's going to happen to them there? Why did they lose that game? By all rights, they should have had that. But obviously, they're on a bit of a good one, but mousesports are a team that can compete. So keep that in mind, guys, because both of these teams, they're not probably the best in the league currently. I think Team WD are rank 11 and Mouse at 7. So there's a lot of movement there. They wouldn't even get into the offline finals with the current performance, even though Mouse did manage to take down Virtus Pro. But obviously, this is the early start of the league. So with all that information in mind, let's get into the game, because I believe they are now kind of ready. And we do have all players there, so no more worries. We are all good and sorted. So let's focus on what we've got in front of us. It will be the first map. It will be Prokarovka, and I cannot wait for this one.
Yeah, so we've got mousesports starting from the south, and that will be obviously Team WD from the north. So these two teams, I think, all in all, pretty similar in terms of individual skill level, but mousesports definitely the better one. On open maps here, so mousesports going over towards the kind of bushy right side road, and that's pretty standard for them. Then they don't really change up their tactics in that respect. Well, Team WD going towards the village.
Yeah, they've gone all in towards the village. Actually, no. Mercuzio and Nicholas Black actually sitting over the more 5 line rather than 6, and leaving Mr. Chef more to his own devices. Great first shot coming out from Mercuzio there. Does connect onto Alien, knocking him down to 870 HP already. So good bit of a start. And which side do you feel has more of an advantage here? Obviously, the village against the kind of roadside down that 1 and 2 line.
I think neither really has the advantage at this early stage. Obviously, Alien did take a shell, and now he's down to 870. He also had to blow his repair kit early on because his gun got damaged. So if he does get caught out and he does get tracked somewhere, he will not be able to use it, and that could be absolutely disastrous for him. He could just get himself completely obliterated. First scout coming out for the side of Team WD. Obviously, Nia Pizzoni will finish him off. David going down. But that is a decent enough place for David to be. He got some initial information. But the thing is, Team WD already knew where Mouse was. They already knew they're over towards that green zone. So not quite the amount of information they would want.
Yeah, and they are actually moving away from just this village now. Nicholas Black and Mercuzio are making their way actually up the 5 and 6 line now. As you said, they're well aware of where the opposition is. But do you feel as though they might spread themselves a little bit too thin here? Because Mr. Chef is just kind of running around, trying to keep eyes on as best he can, just, in the open field. So we normally see, the T-69s battling out on. And at the moment, these guys are really going all in to actually push towards the opposing team's flag.
Yeah, I think they could go for the capture. Well, they could at least defend their base. It is a tactic from the north side to actually capture the base, put the T1s in there. Mr. Chef just took quite a big shell down to 829 now. So he's got to get himself out there. Otherwise, Alien could easily focus him down.
Yeah, indeed. And we do see some fire going down now. Actually, mousesports are making a bit of a move out of this. Potomako peering up. Does receive great damage. Mr. Chef comes back, though. Look at him. He's right down low. 153. Bontot trying to get the reply, though. Nothing really coming of this. I feel as though they might have spread themselves a little bit thin, putting those T-69s further up that 5 and 6 line, but they've had enough time to get back down here. And you can see that Mouse are just using that defilade of the hill, looking over with those turrets, trying to find a way through a possible shot. Whereas Team WD more just spreading themselves out now, trying to find the way through and a way to find the reply. Nicholas Black and Mercuzio getting to more a standard position with those T-69s, and I feel as though they can get some great shells off here. Carmen's in trouble. 844, 625. Oh my word, he is going so low. If he gets out of this, he will not. Nicholas Black deals the killing blow and takes down Carmen. Niers Pizzoni is spotted as well, but they're backing away and reloading and playing this one smart.
Yeah, Nia Pizzoni has got to play smart, otherwise he's going to suffer the same fate as Carmen. But mousesports putting all their eggs in one basket, paying off very well at the beginning, and then it just went disastrously, losing that T-69 of Carmen. So that was an interesting move from them. They didn't quite react quickly enough. They should have just got out of there straight away, and now they're in trouble again.
Yeah, it's literally a repeat of before. Niers Pizzoni has just been melted then by Mercuzio and Nicholas Black, just laying fire after fire towards him. Nicholas Black outstaying his welcome a touch, has to back off on 1101 HP, but still, it's really impressive what Team WD are doing so far. I feel as though they just have the better positions here.
Yeah, they definitely have the better position. That's exactly what they're doing perfectly. They're realizing the mistake by mousesports, and they're pushing onto it. Mousesports definitely didn't go aggressive enough. If you do that push, which can work, you have to carry on. You have to go through it, because not only can you be destroyed from the side Team WD came from, but you can also be focused down from the south, from the railroad. So all in all, pretty bad. He can get surrounded. Bontos Kirk does take down Kazov in that T1 now. He just has to get unspotted, making sure that Alien and Butcher don't get some shots onto him. So all in all, now 2 tier 8 down tanks for the worst, Mr. Chef. And only 505 taking a little bit of damage. The whole of Team WD is pretty safe at this point. And at the moment, surprisingly, really, mousesports beating themselves as opposed to Team WD really doing anything that dangerous.
Yeah, indeed. You say that. Team WD, or more likely 505 and Bontot, are really hunting down those remaining players on the opposition. 505 is literally steps away from Butcher. He's managed to spot him out there, so Butcher has now truly been spotted. You can see the fire now coming through. It's actually Alien who's in trouble first. 667 HP. Fire comes in from those T-69s. He's focusing down Bontot. Further fire, the crossfire comes in. Bontot's in trouble. Backing away. 80 HP left. Actually, he could go down into Alien. Nice covering fire comes through, though, and Bontot will land that final damage-dealing blow, and now the next target being Butcher. 131 HP. This has got to be him going to his grave. 505 was on the prowl, but Bontot came back around down that 2 line and just dealt that really damaging blow and took him out of there in that 1390. So now only Potomako and Snip stand.
Yeah. Prokarovka is down to 4-1-9. So a 2-shot for pretty much any tank on the side of Team WD, apart from Delga's playing that T1. Also, the cap's underway. 30 seconds left on that. Snipper's going to chuck himself into the cap, put some pressure, a little bit more pressure on Team WD, allowing Prokarovka to perhaps reset and maybe even get the capture. But with 4 minutes and 10 seconds on the clock and about 1 minute and 25 seconds left until the Team WD base is captured, I don't think they stand a chance. And with 5 seconds left for mousesports to do anything, no, they won't.
Yeah, that is game over there. And that pace was just completely and utterly dictated by Team WD. Like, I mean, they picked the reins up and they ran with it. Every single kill was perfectly executed. They really did so well. But then again, I feel mousesports put themselves in a really bad position.
Yeah, they put themselves in a bad position, and they realized they put themselves in a bad position because they tried to get out of it, and they didn't do it quite quick enough. And obviously, props to Team WD for realizing that realizing mousesports' mistake and you know, really utilizing that to their own benefit. Mousesports, their biggest mistake was the fact that they pushed down into the kind of basin area. They got some initial good damage, but then from that point onwards, it was an uphill struggle because they should have pushed on across the hill, should have engaged Team WD once they had the HP advantage, and then hope for the best, because that could have gone either way as well. But what they couldn't do is sit there and just wait for themselves to get surrounded, because they didn't have any T69. Well, T69 would have been the best choice in the background to provide that covering fire.
Correct. And I've got to say it, everyone within their own roles, in their own right, for Team WD, played it very well. Looking at the damage, Nicholas Black was fairly quiet, you know, only getting 1k, but then you look over to those T69s who, you know, did that initial blow, really making the use of how mousesports got themselves into that predicament down in that basin, as you said. You know, it was Nicholas Black got 1k, as I mentioned, Makiezi or 1.5, and then we saw those 1390s just hunting out the rest, using that speed, and just obliterating the opposition. Very well played to Team WD there. That's the danger with these guys. They may not always execute to that level, but they will certainly punish someone if they make a mistake like that. There's no two ways about it. So I don't know what people will make of their predictions now, because I would have said go for, you know, mousesports. They managed to take down WoT Pro, but this time around did not look that confident. Didn't look like they could kind of deal with the repercussions of that poor mistake. So there we have it. Prokarovka, the first map will indeed go to Team WD. So 1-0 at the moment. All 5 maps will be played, bear in mind. So whoever gets the advantage throughout will end up taking it. A draw is just a draw. It gets almost negated. But the second map will be Ensk now. Now, very different beast to what Prokarovka is. There's no real similarities. Maybe the green zone, but no one ever uses that, to my opinion. I think we've seen one player trying to use it a little bit, but it kind of didn't really work out in the end. How do you think, you know, mousesports are going to go about this one? Now they're one map down. Going into Ensk, do you think this is a map they can do well on? Because was this the map they tried to pull something out against WoT Pro and it went really weirdly? They put those 4 tanks in one position, sent 2 towards the flag. I'm pretty sure it was on Ensk, and it really didn't go well for them.
It could have been, yeah. I think it
was.
I'm not sure they won it or lost it in the end, but it's one of those maps which they always seem to try something a little bit strange on. I remember the double grill they used in DreamHack, and that just went disastrously. They do seem to like using artillery on these maps. I mean, remember
a bit strange.
I am Katowice, where they actually won against Speyer with a grill. Actually won the finals against them, and that was the last map, and that was a clutch moment for them. He did like 1.4k damage, so it actually worked out there, but it usually doesn't work, and now with the artillery nerfs, we certainly won't see it. But you know, this could be a reversal day where they win on the maps they shouldn't, and they lose on the maps they should, because Prokarovka in theory should go to mousesports. It was like their best map throughout Season 2. And it certainly wasn't Team WD, so it's a bit of a strange one so far. But that's what happens when you make those kind of mistakes. So it's a kind of an interesting map for that respect, but also because it can be played in one of two ways. As you said, not usually the green zone used. It's, if anything, it's that kind of railroad and those houses around the railroad. No one really goes over onto the green unless it's like a T1 and they're trying to get the scouts off. Or it can be played in the city. And I think we're going to see more of a city push. I know mousesports like that, and they like getting into the proper brawl, because then that's when they can bring Butcher in as a heavy tank player, and he just absolutely annihilates the team. No one can really keep up with him in the IS3 or the 5100, which I think he'll be playing it.
And I can't wait to see the damage that man's going to get at the end of this, because it's certainly something to look towards. Anyway, they are ready for the tank pick, so let's get towards that. Now, what are we seeing coming out here? Do you think we'll see any kind of strange picks, or do you think this will be a normal one, no Pershings, or...
Yeah, we could see it pushing, and mousesports did use it on Prokarovka, and also the 416 comes to mind. 110 as well. I mean, these teams are kind of innovating at the moment, even with the limited amount of tanks they can take. Obviously, there's loads of tanks in the game, but the amount of tanks that are actually viable for this 7-on-7 mode, it's always a tricky one. So T1 AMX 5100 from the side of Team WD, and double 5100 from mousesports. T1 AMX 5100 also going to be picked by Team WD again, so they got for 2 AMX 5100s and 2 T1s. Double IS3 from mousesports, and that goes for Team WD as well, so both teams going for the double AMX 5100, double IS3, double T1 so far. And mousesports will add an IS3 to that, so triple IS3, double AMX 5100, double T1. That's completely standard from their team. It's always the lineup they go for. It's a very reliable lineup, very good in every respect, because you have the alpha damage from the IS3's BL9, 122 millimeter, and you've got that consistent damage from the AMX 5100. Obviously, it's an extremely strong tank in the right hands. And the 110 is going to be picked by Team WD as their last pick. So I did say the 110 could possibly be used, and they are going to use it. The Chinese tank coming out from that team. So a lot of frontal armor, extreme amount of frontal armor. It can bounce pretty much anything, even that 265 millimeter penetration from the IS3. But it's extremely hard to play.
And I've got to give a bit of a shout out here. On Twitter, Nipris Putanu, I believe is your name. You did just tweet at me saying, well, I got bored of betting on the favorite team and losing. So my bets are on, are on Team WD. So he's going to be going against us. And, well, that's actually paid off on the first one because, well, we saw them picking up that first map. So maybe betting against us is the way forward. Who knows? Probably. But where's your money for this one?
Wow. The lineup, I think, is a decently well thought out one by Team WD because they have picked that 110, which makes me think they have a plan. But either way,
it's going to be hard to call. So let's get a little bit of an introduction video towards Ensk.
Ensk is a simple map on the face of it, but requires the most skillful team play to play properly. Being such a small map at 600 by 600 meters, the areas of attack are confined to through the city, through the railroads, or through the green zone. The fearsome city side, often famed for its fierce firefights, the railroads and green zone areas are hard to play as they have many death alleys. The railroads provide little cover but good sniping locations. Tanks can shoot over and navigate through the trains to ambush and weaken the opposition. When playing Ensk, always keep in mind that teams may try and rush for the cap and not go for the city brawl. Also, take tanks that can both deal a lot of damage and react quickly to situations.
So let's get into the action here on the second map. As we mentioned, it will be Ensk. Now, in the north, it will be Team WD facing against the blue southern side of Mouse. So what are we seeing so far from these two?
So as predicted, Mouse going straight for the hardcore city push. From the south, it is a normal tactic. It gets you the better situation, gets you the better positions, and they're going to catch out Mr. Chef if they can. He's in that 110, so he has a lot of armor to deal with it.
Well, here we go. They're not messing about at all. Mr. Chef is held down in that choke point, down to 739. Alien finally gets a little bit of damage back towards him from Nicholas Black, but the exchange going further, more in favor to mousesports right now. Bontot is completely cut out of this, and my word, Snip, Alien, and the Espazzoni doing work. 505 trying to come around that one line, not going to get round in time though, and further damage going towards the Team WD boys. Finally, Alien has to back away, but the damage come down, and it's Mr. Chef who is out of there in that 110. Now Bontot and Nicholas Black have to somehow fend themselves off against the massive hordes of mousesports. 505 falling to Polo Mako as well. It's not looking good. Mousesports are really winning this one as best they can. Merkizio finally comes in, but it's Bontot to claim the kill onto Niers Bazzoni, and now Nicholas Black, Bontot and Merkizio lining this one up. The T1s trying to do any sort of damage, but Butcher and Polo Mako around the side trying to flank in. That could catch Bontot, and Merkizio are out now. Actually, it's paid off. Merkizio gets one, but there's the reply. Alien quickly coming back in, and now it's all falling back in favor to Team WD. Can they hold on here? Can they find those two big tanks, that 5100 and that IS3? Snip backing away, 741 HP. Bontot is in trouble though. One hit and he's down. Oh my word, what a shot onto Polo Mako then. 26 HP left towards Polo Mako in that 5100. Nicholas Black goes hunting down for Snip. Doesn't get the shot off. Hits the side. Now needs to back away and play this one smartly. The T1s are exchanging. Snip has taken down Bontot. Now Nicholas Black pretty much left all alone in, well, 1v2, let's call it. He's doing as best he can. Snip is going low. 271. There's the reply, though. It's almost all even. Nicholas Black going in. He's trying to ram it out, trying to do everything he can to negate any damage. But there we go. There's the covering fire coming in from Polo Mako. And mousesports just about held on to that one. That was a damn close game then.
Yeah, that was extremely close. Not only because...
But bear in mind here, quickly want to mention, Polo Mako's only on 28 HP.
Yeah.
Could these T1s actually do anything?
Yeah, they can. They can certainly kill Poto Mako. Snip will be a lot tougher target because, well, he's on 271 and the burst won't quite do it. But it is one T1 of Duges versus another T1. And Carmen playing that T1. Well, Carmen, yeah, he's playing the T1. He's got Poto Mako and Snip to back him up in the 5100 and the IS3. And yeah, Carmen's doing the damage, 29. I think he's going to take him down, no problem at all. Doug is very unlikely to cap here. And I think Poto Mako, he's being a bit careful because he knows he can get taken down. But yeah, he's going to just hip shoot him and take him out for another win. Well, for a win at least.
Yeah, indeed. So it is all even there. Very, very quick game coming out from mousesports. I felt as though they just dominated that midsection. That city brawl, it was all theirs. They got the initial damage down, but how did they actually get that one in the bag? Because it was quite close.
It was very close. And I think where they won it was when... actually, Bontos Kurt came around the side. He was on like 25 HP or something, and he tried to get Snip. But what basically happened is he got outplayed, he got outmaneuvered, outpositioned.
Right.
He didn't manage to get on the shot onto Snip, and Snip just easily took him down. And that went the situation from 2 versus 2 to 1 versus 2, the 5100, and also the IS3. So at that point, it was very hard for Team WD to come out on it. So I think it's just that, and that one player's a little bit of a mistake that lost it for them. If they hadn't lost the IS3, I think he would have. I think it was. Nicholas Black would have been able to come around and do the damage to Snip. And then when Snip shot, the other guy would have come around and finished him off, no problem at all. But then that 5100, it's always been dangerous, regardless of the HP is on. He could have just found himself a nice bush or a nice covered area in the right position and finish those 2 low IS3s off.
And I've got to call it out, though. The damage was really quite even on this, bar the 110 from Mr. Chef, who only managed to deal 300-ish HP damage done.
Yeah.
Everyone else was fairly even. Nicholas Black getting 2.1k. On the other side, Snip getting 2k there. And it was very, very even back and forth. But as you said, it was just the positioning and the individual outplaying that gave them the chance there. So it is all currently tied up all even here, 1-1 at the moment. And I think we are just about ready to get into tank picking for Himmelsdorf. Now, quite similar to Ensk in aspect. It's a city map. You normally get the same kind of plays.
Yeah.
What do you think we're seeing from the tank picks so far?
So standard stuff thus far. These teams are not messing around at all. T1 IS3 from Team WD, double T1 from mousesports. And then that's IS3 is going to be iterated by 1, taking up to 2 IS3s. Another T1 double IS3 from mousesports, double 51 from Team WD. And that'll be replied by the same from mousesports to AMX 6200. Team WD picking that 110 again, so changing up a little bit again. And it didn't work last time, obviously. And the last pick from mousesports with the IS3. So mousesports have gone for the triple IS3, double AMX 6200, double T1. And Team WD going for the double AMX 6200, double IS3, 110, and the 2 T1s. So the same lineups as we saw in Ensk, just now on Himmelsdorf.
Well, let's see if Team WD can do something a little bit different this time. Maybe focus out on that execution. Maybe use that 110 a little bit better. So, guys, let's get ready for that introduction towards Himmelsdorf.
Himmelsdorf is a city maps of city maps. It's a small one, being 600 by 600 meters. There are 3 routes of attack: the hill, the banana, and the train side. The middle area is relatively easy to push, however can end up in disaster as you can be flanked from every side. The road, often called banana, allows for direct head-on assaults but requires a lot of resources. Both the railroad area and the road next to it are good routes of attack, being very open and straight. However, for those very same reasons, you can be easily caught out and taken down. The map features many densely housed areas, which provides good places for engagements and routes of attack. Teams must be aware of the various routes their opponents can take through the map, as well as the hull-down positions enemies can take throughout the entire map. The trick with Himmelsdorf is to catch an enemy tank unsupported by his teammates and then use that advantage to collapse on the entire enemy team.
So welcome into the third map here, as Joe kindly told us. It will be Himmelsdorf, and in the gold and yellow will be Team WD starting in the south, facing off against the blue, mousesports. So take us into what we're seeing so far.
So mousesports going straight for the hill with pretty much all their firepower. Prokarovka, Butcher playing the 5100s, Elian and Snip playing the IS-3, and Carmen's going to be looking after the banana.
Well, Carmen might have some real work on his hands currently because Team WD are going all in on Banana. Mr. Chef, Merkizio, 505, and Nicholas Black all going down there. And I'm not sure how this one's going to work out, but we're going to see some strange play coming out of this.
Yeah, Elian and Snip have rotated back around. Prokarovka and Butcher going straight back to their base along the back road, the A line of their base. They're going to try and get some shots onto Mr. Chef. They did connect the first one, second one bounced, but that's because of the 110. I think Team WD have to play it smart or they're going to get outmaneuvered.
Yeah, this is a really strange start. Nicholas Black and Ponto are now sitting back in those IS-3s. Mr. Chef pushing forward in that 110. But you can see the rest of the side have split off. Those 5100s of like Merkizio, for example, and 505 making their way down that 5 line, using the central area of the map as best they can. But they've taken the advance here. I've got to give them that. They are playing aggressive, but I'm not sure if they can outplay the opposition being this offensive. I just don't know.
Yeah. And now, obviously, since his map has been changed a little bit, they had a lot more cover. It's slightly in the favor of mousesports, this position, obviously, in the past. Without all the rubble you see around here and here, and also along here, they would have definitely been easily taken out. But now they've changed it. Going to be harder for Team WD. But I still think Team WD have the advantage of just being able to push from 3 or 4 locations, depending. They're going to go to the right side, the road next to the right side, or just go straight out the middle, as well as going over that 2-3 line once they take out those 2 T1s. But that's what they got to be worried about, the 2 T1s, because they can go into the cap.
Well, actually saying that, I'd be worried about 505 right now because he's got himself into a great position round the side of Alien and Snip. Does a little bit of damage in that 5100, just knocking Alien down to 813. Now Mr. Chef deciding to push a little bit further forward. They're dancing back and forth, these two. Oh my word, watch out 505. You can see the rotates are now coming in. Niers Bazzoni gets a little bit of damage dealt from Merkizio, who's just backing up 505. And they got a nice little bit of crossfire set up here. But I'm waiting to see that final push and that little bit of execution coming out from Team WD.
Yeah, it's 3 against 3 now. We've got Prokarovka in the back with the 5100, Elian and Snip and those IS-3s also there to try and back him up if it does come down to it. Also, a cap has started. That's from mousesports into Team WD's base, and that's going to prompt the push.
Yeah, we are seeing Mr. Chef edging forward. The fire now going down. Mr. Chef already receiving a shell. Alien coming back round. There's one shell landing at least. They've got to at least go in all in on this one. It can't be tentative, and it's not. Alien going low. Bonto is pushing forward. He's in trouble. 492 left towards him. He's completely focusing down. I believe it's Alien, and he's actually got him down. Bonto goes low, though. Nicholas Black needs to land the next shell to Snip pretty darn quickly. Goes for the ram. Doesn't quite land it as best as he wanted. Mr. Chef will fall to Prokarovka's hand. And now we are seeing finally the push coming into fruition from Team WD. Nicholas Black on the hunt, though, trying to find the rest of the members. Is Prokarovka now backing away from mousesports? He's in trouble. Nicholas Black on the hunt, comes around the side. He gets tracked. He's held in place. And now Team WD can just fold onto this. You can see the clock is ticking, and I do believe we actually might have that stopped right on the last second. We do. Prokarovka surely gonna fall. Bonto will pick that one up, and that's the last real damage-dealing member of Mouse out of there, Bar Butcher, who is coming around the back, so might be able to do something about this, but still, 2 5100s, 2 IS-3s. He's got some damage to be done, and now he's taken down 1. That's Bontot out, but can he find those last 3? I don't see it happening with the clock running down like this. It has got to be game over, and the base has been captured by
Team WD.
There we go. So Team WD just getting it one right in the end, and that was unbelievably close. Both clocks were running so close to that marker. It was so hard to tell, but that was a beautiful, beautiful game coming out. Nicholas Black, 2.2k damage there for Team WD.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's not Team WD who won that. My bad. It's mousesports who won it.
Was that really mousesports? Was that T1
That's how
doing it?
Yeah, it was the 2 T1s. Basically,
there was a second between that then.
Yeah, literally. It was, I think it was Dugas who came around the corner. He reset the cap initially, but he only reset it down to 50%, and that allowed the 2 T1s to kill him. And then the whole of Team WD pretty much sitting in the base couldn't cap it quick enough, and that allowed mousesports to come in and finish off the cap, despite Butcher failing to really reset it at the end. It was a valid attempt, but that was so close.
That was a second, literally, on the scoreboard, a second's worth. That is That's going to be breaking someone's heart out there. I've got to be saying it, because 1 second difference in these games. It can come down to it, though. Don't get me wrong. But Team WD went all in, but it was just that final little bit of a push they needed. Just didn't quite have it, and by a second's worth. Ouch. So mousesports currently are 2-1 up. They are sitting with the advantage. They need at least one more map, basically, to secure this one, taking it to 3 out of the 5 maps, obviously. The next map being Ruinberg. Bit of a hybrid between kind of what we've seen. A bit of a city map, bit of an open map. Still got the village kind of area in there that can be related to, maybe how Ensk can be played on occasion. A little bit of side scraping, but I don't know who this one suits more. It's very hard to call on this.
Yeah, I think it's almost impossible to call, just because obviously Ensk was taken by mousesports, and now Himmelsdorf was taken by Team WD, who actually ended up winning that city fight quite spectacularly, and then managed. Well, I got it. Did I get the wrong way around? I don't know. I think mousesports did well in the Himmelsdorf, because they managed to get the distraction of the city fight, which allowed them to get the 2 T1s behind. I did say that was what would happen.
Yes,
they came out the one line, went down and got themselves into the cap. And obviously Ensk was also a hard one for Team WD. So going off those 2 results, and the fact that they've only won Prokarovka, the open map, I would say this one also going to mousesports, since they seem to be winning the city maps. But this could be the one where Team WD just turns it around. They were so close on Himmelsdorf.
It's hard to say that. It's hard to say they're not playing well. I think Ensk was completely anti-mouses. Don't get me wrong. They deserved that one. They annihilated them. Mr. Chef was completely locked down that 110. Fair play. But that second map, it could have gone either way. I don't feel as though Mouse, made it their own. It was literally a second between them. So they are ready to get the tank picks into this one. So let's have a little look to see what we're getting here.
Yeah, so at the moment, mousesports 2-1 up. Prokarovka going to Team WD, Ensk, and now Himmelsdorf going to mousesports. So we're going to move on to Ruinberg, our 4th map of the day. Obviously, now with the new rules, I guess they're not really new anymore. You have to play all 5 maps. The draw is a draw, and you have to still win by any amount, as long as you have more map wins than the other team. If you get equal amount of map wins, then you get 1 point in the season ranking. If you get more map wins, then you get 3. If you get less, then you get 0, obviously, if you end up losing. So 2 T1s from mousesports, 2 T1s from Team WD, I think. Ruinberg's always one of those ones where it's not really a map that favors the normal tank picks. Obviously, the AMX 1390 for the middle spot is essential. But stuff like the T69 or the 5100 or even like a KV5, it can still be used. And the 416 is not bad. I don't think it's got the maneuverability. It's got the firepower, obviously, with the big damage gun. It can do a chunk of damage if it wants to. The T69 and now the AMX 5100 being picked from both teams as well. So going for that 5100, it's not what the Russian teams do. They usually just go for the triple T69 double AMX 1390 or somewhere thereabouts. But it's changing the meta now. The 5100 does do a lot of damage, especially for that village and the city. It can be essential, although it didn't seem to work out too well for Speer last time. So MX 1390, T69 from mousesports, and the T69 and the 5100 from Team WD. Last pick from mousesports, the 5100, and the last pick from Team WD, the MX 1390.
Okay, so what do you think we're going to see here? Because this map's slightly changed from when I first started watching it. We're seeing more city use, less village use. Where do we think the fight's going to go down on this one? Well,
with both teams actually picking the same lineup, I think the fight could go down anywhere. Although I would predict it going down on the village, just because that does kind of suggest that that's where the teams will go with the lineups they've picked with the MX 1390 and T69 ×2. And that's certainly what we've seen from Team WD from the south before they've gone over towards the 0 line, the K line, and used the 5100 as a sniper as opposed to a brawler.
Well, we're going to have to find out, so let's get you that introduction video towards the one and only Ruinberg.
Ruinberg is one of our newer city maps, and it's fairly large, being 800 by 800 meters. There are 3 main routes of attack: the roads leading to the city, the road going through the middle, and the village area. Each of these have 2 important areas to control. The city has very large roads and plenty of opportunities for teams to flank. The long roads also provide for good sniping areas as well as corner shooting. Teams often push through the village area, and once controlled, the team can move on to the enemy's base. You should pick heavy tanks with high alpha damage for corner sniping, as well as a faster tank for the middle spot.
So welcome back into this one. We are seeing Team WD in that golden yellow from the south, facing off against mousesports in the north in that lovely little blue. But what are we seeing from these two so far?
So it does look like mousesports is doing what I would have done, and that's push towards the village. Obviously, Prokarovka and Butcher taking the long way around the scenic route because they're playing the slightly slower 5100s, and it's such a big and box of a tank, easily sniped from the side from the T69s and the MX-3090s. They get good spawn. Ensk going towards the middle. He's going to get the initial spots out for Nia Piazzoni and Snip in the T69s. While Team WD going straight up the Crescent Moon Road. They're going to go for probably the first few shots if they can. Standard tactic from them, but they might actually find themselves caught out from the side. But so far, an aggressive Team WD. We'll have to see if it ends up working for them. It's always a gamble for that tactic. Always a gamble for that team. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Because if they get caught out in the middle, they're just easy. They're just rat pickings.
Yeah, this could spell trouble. I think Bonto and Nicholas Black are kind of cottoning onto that idea. They're not fully enjoying that. Mr. Chef is in trouble as well. He split off initially towards that village, and now he's very much alone. And the rest of the side beside him are pretty darn close. You can see on the mini-map there, they're not too far away at all. Merkizio will join him up in that village now. And maybe he can find a way back into helping him out. And I do think they've just spotted Snip there. Yes, they have indeed. 853 HP. He's been melted down right now. Niers Piazzoni will peer around the corner, but Mr. Chef and Merkizio are breaking off towards that right flank. Snip going down to 22 HP. Merkizio just needs to land at least one shell towards him. It's 505 to do it. Now, Niers Piazzoni will be all on his own. You can see these guys trying to find that way through. Alien did receive a shell as well, so they are in trouble. And actually, Team WD have that HP advantage at the moment. Yeah,
the gamble paying off straight away. The T69s from the side managing to take down Snip. A kind of an alter version of the Kazna crew push we saw from the side. Alien also taking 571 left on his AMX-3090. Now, mousesports heavily down on HP and also tank. Snip getting taken down from the side in T69. He should have reversed, but if he did that, then Mr. Chef would have done the damage along with Merkizio on the 5100. And what's really interesting is the fact that Prokarovka and Butcher have not got themselves into this fight yet. They need to do that, and I think Merkizio is where they'll be looking to do that. But they have to do it, or they're going to get surrounded and taken down by Team WD once they've reloaded. Yeah, and Mr. Chef already has positioned himself in a chance where he can actually challenge Alien, and he's doing just that. He's been pinned in. No way out of this now. 40 HP left towards him. And actually, it will be Mr. Chef to put him to his grave. And now Merkizio's in a little bit of trouble as Niers Piazzoni's found a way down that little bit of a central line. Nicholas Black receives a huge shell. 33 HP. He is out of there. Butcher finally lands it. Now Merkizio trying to back away, find a way through, but the base is being captured. Pressure being applied from absolutely every angle. The other tanks who split off earlier on, 505 and co, are now making sure this one is not going to be held back for a second. Prokarovka needs to start making that move. He needs to get out of there right now. And you can see these guys are just laying in wait for their chance to turn this through. Now, what's wonderful about the Team WD tactic is the fact they actually have a 5100 in and out of position, and that's going to give them the chance to cap. That's going to give them the firepower and the cap to deal with anything from mousesports who come around, which they have done now. And here's that crossfire setup, though. 505 can just sit in with those T1s, 20 seconds and ticking. Butcher needs to make the move, and there's the crossfire coming in from Bonto, Merkizio. And he's already down to 907. He's going to be in trouble when he comes around this corner, because bear in mind that the players are laying away. Mr. Chef already down there. 5 seconds remain. This could be Team WD's if Butcher does not land that shell. 2 seconds. He just about resets it, but it's given away his hand. It's shown what he's made of. But Butcher going low. 278. There's the reply shell coming through. 443 on 505. 170. Butcher can take him out here, and he's done just that. And now where's the reply? Team WD, you need to get that backup plan underway. Merkizio's so far out, though, as is Bonto. Prokarovka now just steaming in there, and we have GG. Team WD doing quite nicely then. Very nicely, in fact, and it was almost exact role reversal from Himmelsdorf, where mousesports actually managed to lose themselves the engagement, but managed to get the T1s in the cap and win it. And that time around, Team WD, although not quite as smoothly as mousesports, managed to do it. Pretty, was it? Yeah, they got a few tanks down, and that was pretty much the difference between Butcher or Snip later on in the 5100, connecting the shell against the T1, or not. But the 5100, what's good about it is it's such a big tank that it can easily block off the shots from the T1.
Yep.
It can just sit behind it and you can't do anything about it. So generally, a good play from Team WD. I think they didn't have to do that. They could have easily pushed in the village and also won the firefight just based on the T69 and the 3090 from Elinex being dead. But they went for the little bit risky move, which could, if we had another 30 seconds on the clock, gone really bad for them, because then mousesports had the 3 tier 8s to the 2 of Team WD, and they could have just gone around and killed the T1s in the cap. But that's what the T1's used for. That's why it's useful. And that's why Team WD end up winning, which will bring us onto our 5th map. Now 2 maps apiece, these 2 teams. Yep. Prokarovka and now Ruinberg going to the side of Team WD, Ensk and Himmelsdorf going to mousesports. Steps will be our next one, though. Yeah,
and it's going to be the decider out of this as well. What a way to finish this first game out. It's been so close. Both teams going toe-to-toe on this. And I do like the slight kind of... I feel as though Team WD went for that just to make sure Mouse knew they can do it as well. After how Himmelsdorf went down with a second in between them, I'm like, okay guys, we need to get this one back. And they did it rather nicely on Ruinberg. I like that split with the 5100 going back, and it's the first time I've really seen that executed and it working out well. So congratulations to those guys for picking themselves back into this. Now let's put our minds towards Steps, because it's a little bit like Prokarovka, but I feel as though we can't judge Mouse on Prokarovka because they played it badly, basically. They played it wrong. I don't think it's exactly how they normally play it. So take us through what we might be seeing on Steps as the tanks will start being picked.
Exactly. I mean, mousesports, you pretty much summed it up perfectly. They are the better team generally, and they just made a couple of poor decisions, and that's why they end up losing on Prokarovka. But this time around, they've learned from their mistakes, and that's why Steps, I think, will be a better and more smooth game for them at least. And I would put my money on mousesports taking this one. But even if they do, it's been far too close of a game, far too close of a series for them. Now, 2 apiece. Obviously, this does end up being a draw. These 2 teams will just take 1 point each, which is not what they want. mousesports are also, I think they drawed against more WoT Planet Key as well. So that will be 2 draws already, and that will be awful for them. So T1 AMX 3090 from Team WD and double T1 from mousesports. T1 AMX 3090 for WD and double AMX 3090 for mousesports. Double T69, WD AMX 3090 T69 for mousesports. So they're using the AMX 3090s primarily for the just getting in the locations. You'll hear later when we explain the tactics on this map. Joe tells us how if you get the AMX 3090s in the right positions, then you put the pressure on the other team straight away. You limit their options, you limit their routes of attack, and that will give you the great advantage you need. The T69s are just there to provide the firepower. They're not actually winning tanks. Like the AMX 3090 is at least 15% harder to play, just because of that the reload time as well, but also the aim down time and the time between shots is slightly higher. MX 3090 will be the last pick from Team LD, and the T69 from mousesports. So triple T69, double T69, double T1. Triple AMX 3090 and double T69, double T1 for mousesports. Triple AMX 3090, double T69, double T1 as well for Team WD. So mirrored lineup, unlike Prokarovka, so that could change things up here.
So guys, let's get that video rolling for the introduction to Steps.
Steps is the other open map in the map pool, being 1000 by 1000, having no urban areas. There are 3 primary routes of attack: the trench, the rocky area to the left, and the middle road. The road offers direct routes to the enemy's base, but despite having a staggering amount of cover along the way, you are vulnerable to attack from all sides. The trench area provides for great engagements, as it's only a few hills and rocks to cover the teams. Most of the engagements occur around this rock, the winner of which gains a crucial foothold on the map. The rocky left area provides the most cover for attacking and defending teams. It's essential that you pick tanks that can traverse from one side of the map to the other rapidly. They also must be able to get to the various key locations as quickly as possible. That is the key to victory.
So welcome in to the final map here of the 5. It is all even currently, and we are seeing Steps now getting underway. So Team WD in that golden yellow, and mousesports will be in the blue. What are we seeing so far?
So mousesports going for the 60% losing play. That's going towards the right side from the south. pushing the AMX 1390 extremely aggressively. This is not a tactic we've ever seen from any team before. Pushing right along the edge. Will Team WD be able to fend us someone? They got the T69s there. The AMX 1390 is going to be there to provide the real key locations I was describing earlier. Ilian splitting off to the right. He is on his own, so he could find himself easily surrounded. But Nia, Pozzoni, and Snip are going to provide the firepower on those T69s just a little bit slower. Team WD now found themselves surrounded. 3 AMX 1390s, 269. That is the bulk of their firepower. But will they be able to fend this one off from mousesports? I don't think so.
Well, we could find out right now. Nicholas Black going low. He is out of there immediately. Nias Pozzoni eliminates him. Bonto, the next target of focus. 646, allowing Mr. Chef to break off to try and alleviate some of the pressure, but he's already down to 207 HP. Those T69s surely going to go down. Finally, 505, and Mr. Chef gets some connections back towards Alien, but Nias Pozzoni still looks hungry towards Bonto, but it's actually Polo Mako to pick it up. Now, those 1390s getting around the side. Mr. Chef trying to outflank mousesports. He's got one down, looking for the second follow. Makizio's in trouble, though, as Nias Pozzoni will not only get one, he's going to make it 2 in that T69. Makes it 3. He's got the hat trick already. And now pretty much the only man who can do any work is this dear little 505 right now. 505, you've got to be doing something because you've got 5 members of the opposing side up against you in the deciding match here. mousesports have got the cap underway and they look like they want to get this one in the bag pretty darn quickly.
Yeah, very good. They want to finish this one off and they want to take the win home, and it does look like it's going to happen for them. Just really playing the perfect game against Team WD despite losing quite a lot of tanks, and Nia Pozzoni looking to finish it off. Although missing his third shell, he'll only have one more, then he will have to reload for 25 seconds, allowing 505 to escape from that situation. 25 seconds left on the clock with 2 tanks in the cap for mousesports. Will they be able to finish off before, obviously, 505 rotates around and gets the cap? But even if he does that, it's very unlikely that he's going to be able to beat both Proto, Mako, Butcher, and Carmen in the AMX 1390, and Carmen playing the T1 in the cap.
Yeah, he's trying to battle it out with Nias Pozzoni right now, but with 5 seconds remaining, the clock is the biggest factor of what's against him. And mousesports have done it in the most incredible fashion there, going absolutely crazy in that last game to secure them the victory.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's not a tactic we've actually seen before, so they're definitely coming out with new strategies, which is really good because
it worked.
Yeah, it worked perfectly. And what was just good thinking from them was the fact that obviously Team WD wanted to play the normal tactic, the normal.
So they knew where they were going to be.
Exactly. Like they knew. mousesports knew that's what they were going to do. Team WD thought mousesports was going to play it normally, and from that situation, they actually end up winning from the north quite often.
Yep.
Especially if you go down towards the trench with most of your tanks, which mousesports didn't do. They stay up on the ridge, just to the left of the ridge, knowing they'll have the cover. Mm-hmm. And then they just surrounded Team WD. The 2 AMX 1390s really managed to do the damage they needed to, especially from in the back. They got the 2 T69s down, which was essential, because as soon as those AMX 1390s tried to come round, they managed to get quite a lot of shots, taking down the double T69 for mousesports. And then they were reloading, and that allowed mousesports just to kind of collapse around, finish off the last tanks, and obviously Nia Pozzoni finally finishing off 505, or at least finding him and doing quite a lot of damage, almost finishing him off. And that's just generally good thinking from mousesports, switching up, changing the meta. Not a tactic that will work twice, though.
No, indeed. It was a bit of a one trick up the sleeve kind of moment, but it got them the victory, and that's what matters in the end. So mousesports will be claiming that one, sadly enough. Well, Team WD did well. I think we can't say they didn't. They always tried to come up with something new, but on that final map, they just got outdone. They could not predict what was coming over that hill, and it was game over. So congratulations to mousesports. But guys, do not go too far away, because we will be coming back in just about 5 to 10 minutes with the next game, which will be Denova against Ulanska Fantasia. So while the new guys to the league facing off against one of the guys you've been always watching to really get into their own element. Currently, Denova are at that 5th position, so they're within the top 6, but still, it's not the place I want to be seeing them at. I think they've got more to give.
They've definitely got more to give. I think they can go all the way to top 3. I hope they are a top 3 team this season. They've been doing pretty well. They just need to get the consistency, as I always say, and they need to get the results. And I think, obviously, being Ulanska, being a new team, they need to beat them. They need to get them down. But Ulanska is looking strong. Obviously, they managed to beat mousesports quite spectacularly, so that's going to be a hard one. And mousesports just winning against, obviously, this team, Team WD. It's going to be just kind of a strange situation. But I think generally, Denova just have to play their game, keep cool, and just get a win.
Yeah, so we will find out just after the break if Denova can do it. So guys, don't go too far away. We'll be back in 5 to 10 minutes.